This is the fourth video in a series of 17 videos exploring the book, The Power of Discipline: How to Use Self-Control and Mental Toughness to Achieve Your Goals by Daniel Walter. In this video, we're going to talk about Chapter 4, A Reality Check, the Dunning-Kruger Effect. Have you ever met someone who thinks they're much better than they actually are? That coworker who believes they're amazing at something, but everyone else can see that's not quite true? Maybe a driver who considers themselves excellent, yet is constantly close to crashing. Or that friend who thinks they understand everything about money, but is always in debt. Well, this phenomenon has a name: the Dunning-Kruger Effect. And understanding this effect might be one of the most important keys for anyone who wants to achieve prosperity, especially after the age of 40. The Dunning-Kruger Effect reveals something both simple and unsettling. The less someone knows about a subject, the more they tend to believe they know a lot. It's the classic case of they don't know what they don't know. And the danger lies in the fact that this ignorance often comes with unshakable confidence. The person doesn't recognize their own limitations, and therefore doesn't seek to learn, and as a result, doesn't grow. Meanwhile, those who truly understand, the ones with knowledge and experience, are usually humbler and more aware of how much there still is to learn. Now stop for a moment and think. How many times in our financial lives do we fall into the same pattern? How many times have we thought we already knew everything about money? And that's exactly when we make mistakes. Many people after 40 believe they already have enough life experience and don't need to learn anymore. After all, they've lived, worked, raised children, survived crises. But the truth is that life experience is not the same as financial education. And here's the key insight: the Dunning-Kruger effect doesn't show up only in intelligence or work. It also appears in the way we handle money. See if you recognize yourself in any of these situations. You feel like you understand finances, but somehow you always end the month short on cash. You believe you don't need a budget because you already know how to control yourself. Or maybe you think investing is only for people who have a lot of money, so you never even try. These are classic examples of when the ego speaks louder than learning. At 40, 50, or 60 years old, it's common to think, well, if I haven't learned by now, I never will. But it's precisely that belief that keeps so many people stuck in the same financial pattern for decades. Because the first step toward prosperity is recognizing your own ignorance. Not in a negative sense, but in the sense of admitting that there's still more to know, more room to grow, to change, to evolve. Daniel Walter explains that people who perform poorly in a certain area often fail to realize it. They live in a kind of illusion of competence, and this self-deception is dangerous because it blocks progress. On the other hand, those who have already achieved a certain level of mastery tend to doubt themselves more. Not because they feel incapable, but because they're aware of how complex things truly are. That's maturity. And it's that kind of maturity we need to apply to our financial lives. If you're rebuilding your finances after 40, you might feel that the road ahead is long. But here's the good news. At this stage of life, you already have something many younger people don't: the ability to perform an honest reality check. Maturity gives us the strength to look in the mirror and say, I may have lived a lot, but I still have a lot to learn. And that's power. The power to restart, to relearn, and to do things differently. The Dunning-Kruger effect shows us that the greatest enemy of growth is false confidence. That feeling of, I already know. And the antidote to that is self-awareness. The more you know yourself, the more clearly you see where you need to improve. For example, maybe you've realized you're not as disciplined as you thought, or that your financial decisions are driven too much by emotion, or that you don't truly track your spending. You just have a vague idea. These realizations are not reasons for shame. They're signs of growth. A reality check can be uncomfortable, yes, but it's also liberating, because as long as you live inside the illusion, there can be no transformation. Only when the truth comes to light can you build something solid. And here's a powerful reflection. Prosperity begins where illusion ends. How many people spend their entire lives believing they're doing well, when in reality they're just surviving? They work hard, but without strategy. They earn, but spend it all. They live on credit, thinking it's purchasing power, and they still say, "I understand money, I'm just going through a tough phase." But that phase lasts for years, sometimes for an entire lifetime. The Dunning-Kruger Effect invites us to pause and ask, what if I'm not as good at this as I think I am? What if there's something I still don't know? That simple question can change everything. Because when the mind opens itself to learning, growth begins again. The author suggests something powerful. Surround yourself with people who know more than you do. Walk alongside those who have already achieved what you want to achieve, not to compare yourself, but to learn. This applies to every area of life, including finances. If you want to prosper, spend time with people who talk about investments, discipline, and purpose. Distance yourself from conversations that only reinforce scarcity, fear, and complaint. The mind prospers by contagion. You become similar to the environment you stay in. And here's another important point. Financial humility is not submission, it's wisdom. Admitting that you need help isn't weakness, it's intelligence. The person who thinks they already know everything closes the door to learning. But the one who recognizes there's still a road ahead creates room for prosperity to enter. Maybe you've felt frustrated when realizing you still make financial mistakes, even with so much life experience. But remember, progress is not linear. You don't have to know everything. You just have to keep learning. With each step of awareness, you break a cycle. With every new piece of knowledge, you gain the power of choice. And that's how prosperity is built. Brick by brick, choice by choice. Now think with me, what would a reality check look like in your financial life today? Maybe it's looking honestly at your bank statement. Maybe it's admitting that your credit card has become a crutch, or acknowledging that you don't really have clarity about your numbers. It might hurt, but that's the first step toward healing, because wherever there is awareness, there is the possibility of change. Daniel Walter also reminds us that perfection doesn't exist, and that's a relief. We don't need to be perfect, only conscious. What matters is not to stop. Keep studying, improving, adjusting, read about finances, listen to podcasts, seek mentorship, take courses. Knowledge is the bridge between where you are and where you want to be. And there's something magical that happens when you adopt this mindset. You stop being a victim of circumstances and become the creator of your own prosperity. You stop reacting to life and start designing life. Financial maturity doesn't come from accumulating money. It comes from deeply understanding how money behaves and how you behave in relation to it. So, the invitation of this chapter is simple, yet transformative. Have the courage to look at yourself with honesty. Admit what needs to change. And above all, keep the humility of someone who knows there is always room to learn. If you believe you deserve more in your financial life, the link below in the first comment is for you. So, did you like this video? Then help us out. Like, comment, share, and turn on the bell after subscribing to the channel.